Good morning and welcome to the Cloud Foundry Morning Edition, Episode 11, Linux Foundation All Hands. My name is Stormy Peters and I'm VP of Technical Evangelism at the Cloud Foundry Foundation. So today I'm going to give you a couple of pieces of pretty big news, and then I'm going to introduce you to the rest of the Cloud Foundry Foundation team, as well as Jim Zemlin, the Executive Director of the Linux Foundation. So first, the news. So until now, only an administrator could register and update service brokers. And as of this week, according to news posted by Dr. Nick from Stark & Wayne, a normal user can now register and update their own service brokers. So this gives a lot more power to Cloud Foundry application developers, not just administrators who administer instances of Cloud Foundry. So awesome news. The link is in the notes if you want to read more about that. The other big news that we have this week is in the Lattice project. So I announced before that we're pushing Lattice as the way for application developers to check out Cloud Foundry. So it's a way that you can download some of the Cloud Foundry functionality to your laptop and test it out. And it has a couple disadvantages in that the UI is a little different. The functionality is the same, but the UI is a little different. The branding is obviously different. But in the last couple weeks, there's been some changes to Lattice. So they're now adding the CF push UI and technology to Lattice, which is huge. They've added Windows support, and they're now adding some BOSH support. So brokered services can be BOSH deployed with the special release of Lattice. So huge improvements to Lattice as both as a product in and of itself, and as a way for our application developers to test out the Cloud Foundry functionality. So huge improvements there. Our huge news there. So this week, the Cloud Foundry Foundation team was at the Linux Foundation All Hands. So we're actually a Linux Foundation project, and we use a lot of their resources. Like all of our events are hosted by the Linux Foundation events team. We use their banking and financial services. So we are a Linux Foundation project. So along with a whole bunch of other Linux Foundation projects, like 25 of them, we went to the Linux Foundation All Hands. And I thought it was a great opportunity to introduce you to the whole team. So what you're going to see is the rest of the Cloud Foundry Foundation team, as well as Jim Zemlin from the Linux Foundation, introducing themselves. So here you go.
I'm Jim Zemlin. I'm the Executive Director of the Linux Foundation, and I am here to talk about Cloud Foundry.
So one of the things that really impressed me at the Linux Foundation All Hands was how many different projects there are that are part of the Linux Foundation that all work together and all collaborate on a number of things like events and how to attract developers and how to do security. And so I asked Jim, how many projects are there?
So we've got 25 projects here. So Linux, Node.js, Cloud Foundry, AllSeam, which is an IoT initiative, OPNFV, a network function virtualization effort, Open Daylight, a software-defined networking project. We have open mainframe people here. We have people who work on drone code, from unmanned aerial vehicles to platform as a service and down to the kernel. Everybody's here.
Jim was in on the very beginning, like when Pivotal actually wanted to create a Cloud Foundry Foundation so that other companies could collaborate, and they were wondering where to house that foundation and how to create it. Jim was part of that.
Cloud Foundry, the technology came out of an organization called Pivotal that I think people who follow Cloud Foundry know well. And Pivotal approached us to create a neutral home for Cloud Foundry, us at the Linux Foundation, to create a neutral home for Cloud Foundry so that they could invest along with IBM, SAP, Hewlett-Packard, and the many members who participate in Cloud Foundry at large scale.
So one of the questions that comes up is, why is Cloud Foundry part of the Linux Foundation? What's the benefit? And the benefit is often those pooled resources between projects, things like events teams and finances. And here Jim describes
the Cloud Foundry folks wanted to create an organization that would enable the community to be led by people who are professionals at creating big communities around an open source project, needed infrastructure to run the development frameworks that are used to actually create the code. They wanted events to promote the project, to bring developers together. They wanted kind of all the things that the Linux Foundation's been doing for a decade or more with Linux, and essentially tap into our expertise to grow the organization. They needed to hire people quickly. They needed to put money into a bank account. We have all those capabilities, and so we were able to essentially turnkey the effort with Cloud Foundry. And what we're doing here is meeting to share best practices, to get to know each other. Each of our projects has unique challenges to their particular part of the technology stack, but they also have a lot of common challenges around, how to do security policy, how to develop a community, how to do a great developer event, how to manage intellectual property. And we're sharing those ideas with each other all day long. And mainly just getting to know each other and having a good time.
So one of the things that Jim Zemlin did when Pivotal approached him about hosting the Cloud Foundry Foundation is look for an executive director. So he found Sam Ramji, who agreed to serve as CEO, and Sam and Jim worked things out about how they would get started and what things would look like. So here's Sam, and Sam was really busy during the all hands. So I didn't catch him at the all hands because he was busy talking to other people, giving talks, doing other things. So here he is, describing in his own words why now is an important time in platform as a service, and why Cloud Foundry, an open source software project, fits that need, and where we should go from here.
Hi, I'm Sam Ramji, CEO, Cloud Foundry Foundation. Cloud Foundry is focused on enabling rapid productivity for developers for new applications and portability of those applications across any cloud environment. The reason this is really important is because the world has shifted to cloud computing to deal with all of the increased demands for availability and service of applications to devices all around the world, accessible at any time by any number of people. That requires what we call elastic scalability. It means you have to be able to serve more applications rapidly or fewer in an unpredictable environment. Cloud computing does a great job of taking care of that scale, but what Cloud Foundry provides is the ability to build those apps rapidly and then move them from one cloud to another. So one day you might be running them in your own data center, another you might be running them in Amazon, another you might run them on Azure. And really, you might even want to run them in all three places at the same time. Recently, I got the opportunity to meet Tim Savage of Armakuni. They build the infrastructure for a very high-performance environment which serves the public good. It's a program called Comic Relief, which has raised over £1 billion in the United Kingdom to be able to take care of pretty basic needs, pure water for children in Africa, basic food, basic medicines. They have one day a year when they can actually serve their demands. They've got 364 days of almost no activity, totally quiescent servers, no strain on their applications, and then about 8 hours on the 365th day where they have to raise on the order of 50 to 100 million pounds. No tolerance for failure, no tolerance for lack of scalability. So the fact that they can do that on Cloud Foundry and run on 3 different environments at the same time means that they can serve the public good and do so while getting portability across all their clouds. So that's my favorite story about CF, and invite you to take a look at cloudfoundry.org and learn more about what we do.
And next up is Mike Maney, who leads our communication and branding efforts.
My name is Mike Maney. I lead branding and communications for the Cloud Foundry Foundation.
And I asked Mike what he did every day, which proved to be a hard question for everybody.
It's different every day, right? One of the roles that I have is to make sure that the values and the culture that we put on paper is actually exhibited through programs and through the people and the products and the efforts that we use across the foundation.
And you probably saw our new brand over the last couple of weeks. It's this beautiful new logo of like molten metal pouring into like a cogwheel, and also the ninja rabbit or the engineer rabbit or whichever version of the rabbit you want to use for community. So I asked Mike how we went about creating that.
When we set out to create the new brand, I actually had a full head of hair, and it was a long process. We did a lot of global testing. We worked with a great firm, small firm that had very similar values to us out of Portsmouth, New Hampshire, called Vital Design. And they did an outstanding job of polling the community, talking to a lot of our stakeholders, and really understanding what the Cloud Foundry brand was. And they translated that into a tremendous new logo, a new visual identity, and a website for the community.
And then Mike did a great job of expressing why we're all working on Cloud Foundry, an open source software project that is a platform as a service done by community, with companies and individuals working together.
This is a great organization. This is being bigger than the actual products that we sell, right? Because that's one of the things that this Linux Foundation and the Cloud Foundry brand is about, right? It's not about just the code. It's not about the projects. It's about the people behind them. It's about the people that build it, the people that we're serving. And that is what I'm really thinking about right now this week.
Next up is Liza Frank, who is Sam Ramji's executive assistant.
Hey, I'm Liza, and I am the executive assistant to Sam Ramji, CEO of the Cloud Foundry Foundation.
Liza, like many others, also struggled to define what we do in one day in a couple of minutes on a video.
Oh my God, there's so much on a daily basis.
And I asked Liza how working at Cloud Foundry compared to other jobs that she'd had.
Yeah, it's super interesting. It's completely different from the world that I'm used to. I come from ad tech, and so this is just, it's so nice to be able to work with people to do something good and worthwhile. I love my job.
Next up is Jil Backstrom, who leads our PR efforts.
Hi, my name is Jil Backstrom, and I'm the PR manager for Cloud Foundry Foundation.
So Jil is doing PR for an open source software foundation, and she's working with 53 member companies, all of which have their own PR team. So I asked her what that was like.
It's great to work with open source PR because we really are in a situation where when we're talking to reporters and analysts, we're talking about how we're changing the industry. When we're talking to them, we don't get the sense that they're trying to give us that we're giving a vendor pitch or trying to sell a product. They really, it's an opportunity for us to really start talking about technology and how we're changing industry. So that's pretty exciting and fun.
And then I asked Jil where she lives or what she does when she's not doing Cloud Foundry stuff.
I live on a small farm in Colorado. So when I'm not doing technology PR, I am mucking stalls and milking goats.
Next up is Devin Davis, who runs our marketing efforts.
My name is Devin Davis, and I run marketing and operations for the Cloud Foundry Foundation. It's everything from making sure that our marketing working group is coordinating properly to making sure that we're working together on things like certification and other important projects to making sure that our summits run smoothly and getting us all to work together as a team.
And I asked Devin what was top of mind this week. And of course, he answered the answer that you should all know from the previous Cloud Foundry Morning Editions. Cloud Foundry Summit Shanghai coming in less than 2 weeks.
That depends. Have you bought your tickets for Shanghai Summit yet? You should buy your tickets for Shanghai Summit. It's going to be awesome. It's December 2nd and 3rd. It's in Shanghai, so it's not just a clever name. And the goal is really to get the Asia community and the China community around Cloud Foundry together in one place. So that we can all talk about our successes and what we can all do better.
And I asked Devin what it was like to work with 53 member companies, because I think in marketing it's even more interesting than in some other efforts because everyone does marketing a little different.
Cool, because we work with companies that have a ton of history like IBM that are big, important companies, and we work with small, important companies like Iron.io that recently just joined, who are doing really interesting things from a technology perspective. And so we get the full gamut of the marketing playhouse. We get to pretend we're a startup, and we get to pretend we're a major multinational corporation.
Next up is Scot Monson, who leads our ecosystem efforts. So he works with a lot of user companies to figure out how we can best engage them and make sure that Cloud Foundry meets their
My
needs.
name is Scot Monson, and I head up ecosystems for the Cloud Foundry Foundation.
And I asked Scott, what did that effort look like day to day? Like, what does he do?
Major focus is actually on helping user companies engage with the foundation. We have a super powerful foundation already built, foundation from a technical perspective of the best cloud providers in the world, the biggest. And the economy is going to grow by us getting end users more engaged and making sure that we're building platforms designed for vertical markets.
And one of the things that Scot does is lead SIG special interest groups, which are really a fascinating way of figuring out how to include people, how to include industries and companies that don't necessarily traditionally have a lot of developers to put on the project.
Sure. A SIG is basically, well, special interest group, it's basically a foundational service, a complementary one that we provide. It's open to anyone that's really a user of Cloud Foundry, right? So we have members and we have non-members that join. The objective of the SIGs are to get everybody together and to look at the vertical market in which they play and try to come up with requirements, desires, software that they might need, etc., so that we can build a unified voice and bring that back to the project teams, the project management committees that are building Cloud Foundry, and make sure that the user voice is well understood within those projects. And then in the end, those requirements they want get into the upstream project. And since we are doing certified versions of Cloud Foundry, certified products require the use of upstream projects. So it's a cycle that enables them to have a voice back into the foundation and into the project without actually having a lot of contributors working on the project.
And last but not least for today is Chip Childers, who leads our technology efforts.
So Chip Childers, Vice President of Technology for the Foundation.
And I asked Chip what he does day to day, and he managed to summarize a whole bunch of work that I think he knows in just a few seconds. So I think we'll bring him on later and get you some more detail on how dojos work and how contributions to the project works. But for now, here's your summary.
Largely responsible for working with all of the various vendors that are contributing, a lot of the users and the different special interest groups, making sure the requirements are flowing in effectively to the projects, that the projects are operating, that they're operating in an inclusive way. I'll spend a lot of time working on the dojo program to bring in new contributors and committers to the project.
So now you've met the Cloud Foundry Foundation team. Now you have a general idea of what we're working on. You haven't met all 53 member companies, but eventually I'll bring them all on board and you'll get a chance to see each of them. If you have any questions about what we're doing, now you can reach out directly to the Cloud Foundry Foundation employee who's working on that, or you can reach out to me and I can bring them back online to answer questions. So thanks for joining us. As part of this, we had some fun, so I will include a couple of bloopers coming up.
Oh, this is video?
Where am I supposed to look? I'm sorry.
If you look right
Hey. Public relations? I do. Let's start over. Hi. I do. Hi.
It's actually one of our colors. I think it's our main color. I should know that better. I don't have a good answer for that.
This has been episode 11, the Linux Foundation All Hands of Cloud Foundry Morning Edition, and I am Stormy Peters, VP of Technical Evangelism of the Cloud Foundry Foundation. See you next week.